Hey there, happy Sunday. Thank you so much for tuning in to Sundays with Trenae. I'm Trenae, and this week we're meeting Rohan Brown. He's the founder and CEO of Barley Inc. Now, back in 2014, Rohan used to go to a bunch of bars and restaurants in Philadelphia. He knew all the hot spots, and his friends would often ask him for recommendations. But he started blogging about his experiences, and that led him to have conversations with other patrons, with restaurant owners, and he realized there were some themes that kept popping up. People often really didn't know when their favorite bar or restaurant was going to be crowded one night, and restaurant owners, they didn't understand who their most valuable customer was. So Rohan saw this as an opportunity. So through Barley Sober app, people can pre-order drinks ahead of time before they get to their favorite spot, and restaurant owners can understand who's coming in. But as you can imagine, the journey to this app didn't happen overnight. Rohan's going to explain his transition from the corporate finance world into the tech space and what he does to relax. Check this out. Hey Rohan, thanks for being here.
Hey Trenae, thanks for inviting me. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. So Rohan, you started this app before the COVID-19 pandemic, which essentially upended nightlife as we knew it. So how did you convince people to believe in your app before we really all did remote ordering?
Absolutely. So before you get into the global pandemic, it really has to do with being consistent and charismatic. I had to make sure that not only did I have an idea, but I had something to back up my theory. So making sure I built relationships with bar owners as well as alcohol brands and potential end users is really how we got to where we are now. And with the pandemic, it kind of put everything on pause, but it allowed these operators, these bar and restaurant owners to kind of realize, technology is the future. And they adopted QR codes. And the next step after that is kind of really making an interactive marketplace for bars, users, as well as alcohol brands.
And you talked a little bit about it before, but the idea of consistency, I've spoken to several other people on the show about just how important consistency
No,
is.
no.
Tell me, just like, how did you develop that muscle for you?
So I've actually, that's definitely from my athlete background. So playing college basketball, you have to be consistent, every day. There's no days off really. So kind of just allowing my skills from that space to transfer over into this entrepreneurial world and knowing that if I say I'm gonna do something, I got to do it. If I'm gonna say I'm gonna deliver something, I got to deliver it on time or even prior to that deadline. So I, being an athlete at a high level really allowed me to kind of stand out amongst other people in the space.
So that was your follow through essentially.
Absolutely. I got to keep your hand up. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. So I'm always curious, as an entrepreneur, as a founder, what keeps you up at night?
So, what currently keeps me up at night, and I am truly passionate about this space because I believe bars and restaurants are the social watering hole for society. It's the only place where you can really have all these different walks of life within one space and have a casual conversation over a drink. So, what keeps me up at night is missing this wave of the space transitioning to adopting technology more. What does the future of nightlife look like now that we've adopted technology? With the adoption of technology comes automation, and then after automation comes personalization. And I don't want to miss this wave of opportunity to try to introduce my venture into the space.
Now, Rohan, you started in corporate finance.
Yeah.
Where did the interest in the tech space come from?
I I'm a nerd. I'm just be honest.
Me too.
Big nerd. So after college, I kind of read a lot about emerging technologies, AI, blockchain, robotics, and I kind of just got obsessed with it and was saying, this technology space, it feeds my imagination. So having the blog and having this idea around it, not really concrete, but there was money to be made here. I kind of just said, you know what, let me immerse myself in this space that I have no clue about and kind of see what happens.
That's awesome. I like you taking that initiative. But with all that initiative, I'm sure you have to just prioritize your mental and physical health. And so I really want to know, how do you keep your wellness in check and how do you stay sharp?
So at first it was definitely music. Love listening to music, R&B from the 90s, old hip hop, current hip hop. It really is therapeutic for me. but I had to take it to the next level, and I started to do meditation just to have that time to isolate myself from the world and outside of my ego and really get a better sense of where I am and reach my equilibrium. So music, meditation, and then isolation is for sure how I, stay level headed.
Now, isolation, I mean, this during this pandemic, I mean, that was a rough one. Especially if you've been, familiar with that grind culture, that hustle and that bustle. Was that a easy transition for you?
It honestly wasn't, because I'm better in person. I believed I was better in person. So having everything remote, hopping on a phone call or video call, it was a struggle for me at first, but starting to get used to it over time. And now I can do virtual or in person. But the pandemic really helped me kind of take a step back and realize you don't necessarily need to have that grind life. Like, that's not really what it is. It's about building relationships, understanding how your network works to really see what doors it can open. So that whole pandemic transitioned me to kind of utilize my network better, as opposed to just constantly being out talking to people or trying to sell. Like, take a step back, relax. Everything's coming. You just need to see what's in your playing field.
That's awesome, especially coming from a basketball player playing field. Okay, okay. I'm corny, but anyway, Rohan, thank you
Nice.
so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
So for Rohan, it's all about his music and his meditation. Try it this week. It might make a difference. Well, that's all the time we have for this week's episode of Sundays with Trenae. Listen, if you like this episode, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch up next Sunday. Remember, love yourself and love your community. Bye.